In 1973, home and building fires were skyrocketing. This was recognized as a crisis, and a report was issued to Congress detailing the issue and what could be done to solve it. America Burning was revolutionary. It combined stakeholders beyond the fire service, policy, science, and marketing. What I'm proposing today is that our time is now. The crisis is now. We need America's wildland burning to be presented to our nation, but we don't have to wait on it. You're here attending this conference to discover your role. So let's dive right in. I want to take a look at the success of the 1973 report, and I'm going to propose what could be considered in the outdoor edition. First, the report spanned industries. Commission members included professionals from fire suppression, insurers, equipment manufacturers, testing laboratories, and private and public sector officials. The result, America Burning, kickstarted modern fire prevention because the right people were at the table to begin with. It brought about the integration of fire safety into building plans and consumer products. It ushered the dawn of affordable home smoke detectors, expanded public education and outreach about fire safety. Leaps and bounds were made in firefighter safety technology, and the report was the genesis of the National Fire Incident Reporting System that continues to drive progress through uniform national data reporting. Wildland and WUI fires need the same stakeholders at the table to drive change. Building and planning professionals, citizens, fire suppression experts, insurers, environmental scientists, economists, equipment manufacturers, public health, politicians, realtors, and research and testing laboratories. We all have skin in the game. Second, the report proposed specific policy changes. These focused on prevention, training and education for the fire service, education for the public, engineering safer environments through testing codes and standards, improving fire protection features of buildings, and advocating for extended research. 3 different federal agencies were actually developed from this report: the U.S. Fire Administration, housed under FEMA, the National Fire Academy, and the Center for Fire Research within the National Bureau of Standards. This is great news. The framework for policy change is already there, but these agencies need to be budgeted for expanded training and research within the wildland-urban interface and wildfire arenas. For wildfire, let's look at scalable policies to consider under the 5E model: education, emergency response, engineering, economic incentives, and enforcement. In education, we need expanded education for our local fire departments. Research and guidance about effective public education to share our knowledge about prevention, mitigation, preparedness, and recovery from wildfires. We also need to see motivational education for politicians and residents to adopt fire-adapted community planning. Emergency response. For too long, we've been focused on rapid fire suppression, and just as we were starting to move towards landscape-scale tactics, COVID has pushed us right back into rapid fire suppression model. We need research into tactics, safety equipment, and technology that help us manage incidents in holistic ways. Shout out to the Center of Excellence here in Colorado for pioneering wildfire technology. Research and analysis of managing fires with the integration of community partners into the incident command structure. I'm talking about ecologists, utility providers, and watershed managers. We need to develop pre-plans for evacuations driven by wildfire protection plans so we don't end up with another campfire. And lastly, we need to adequately project and plan for resource needs and expenses. This was glaring amid the pandemic when states that rely on inmate wildland crews found themselves coming up short not only in workforce, but in their budget as well. Engineering, this is a big one. We need to appoint, fund, and manage on a landscape scale for healthier forests and WUI. We need to know who is responsible for what areas and hold them accountable. We need to use fire when it's appropriate. Examine local building and development codes to have defensible space and fire-resistant constructions built into our communities. Look at local policies on water management, code enforcement, environmental preservation and restoration, air quality, and burning regulations. And lastly, research and engineer safer manufacturing standards for common causes of human-started wildfires. Economic incentives, again, I'll lead with adequate funding needs to be available for prevention, preparation, mitigation, response, and recovery. Beyond that, we can develop and support incentives for individuals, corporations, and local governments. And lastly, enforcement. We know that 80 to 90% of wildfires are human-caused. I had to laugh out loud recently at the absurd headline that a gender reveal party started a 7,000-acre wildfire. In what world is that acceptable? Exploding targets, fireworks, pyrotechnics, and disregarding safety standards and restrictions either by industries or individuals needs to have consequences. That means working with local leaders and law enforcement to create tools necessary for that. Lastly, the report combines science and marketing. Fair warning here, my degrees are in science, but to my core, I'm a communicator and yes, a marketing professional. I get really fired up about communicating science well. For the purpose of this talk, I'm honestly going to skim the science. I'm already assuming that you're a wildfire nerd or you're on your way to becoming one because, well, you're here watching this. But really quickly, on average, the West is getting warmer and drier, some places faster than others. Grand Junction. More than a century of fire management practice focused on suppression has left us with millions of acres, overgrown or deadened down landscapes. The frequency of megafires, those over 100,000 acres, like our Pine Gulch fire here, are increasing. And lastly, the WUI is growing. From 1990 to 2010, the number of homes in the WUI increased by 41%. To this point, I recently heard a new term, Zoom towns. With the possibility of remote work, we're now seeing people flock to resort communities and, subsequently, the wildland-urban interface. Wake up! Do you see what I did there? All of that was important, but I bet you took a break. So let's get to the marketing part. I'll just leave this here. The name and cover alone are meant to make you have a visceral reaction. You know instantly what this report is about. The idea I'm proposing for a comprehensive report about wildfire, spoiler alert, it's been done. But these reports have had really sexy names like National Cohesive Wildfire Management Strategy and Wildland Fire Management, the National Fire Plan. Doesn't really wake you up. When I dive into the first sentence of America Burning, it reads, "The striking aspect of the nation's fire problem is the indifference with which Americans confront the subject." I love this report because it's riddled with language like this. It's going for your heart and the hearts of those who have the power to change the situation. Another quick favorite excerpt. Appallingly, the richest and most technologically advanced nation in the world leads all the major industrialized countries in per capita deaths and property loss from fire. We need a robust commission to offer expert testimony. We need to examine research and policy needs for wildfire education, emergency response, engineering, enforcement, and economic incentives. And then we need to bring in marketing professionals to help us present and execute the vision. America's wildland is burning. We need this on a national level. But I'm here to tell you, don't wait. Start where you can in your community. The time to act is now.